Hello and welcome everyone to the 4th Virtual Creative Workshop and Variety Show. I'm so happy that there's going to be such a fun audience for our featured guests today. Before we begin, really quick, do feel free to leave comments and ask questions in the chat at any point. Our co-host will select some of these questions to read aloud to the artist. Okay, and now to the lineup of the guests who will be featured during this workshop and variety show. First, we will have Guilherme Duarte from Porto, Portugal, who is a multidisciplinary digital artist. He creates surreal, dark, psychedelic art using a combination of photography and Photoshop, which he will show us and talk about. Next, we will have Alex Larson, who is in the U.S. Army in New York. He is going to be playing guitar and singing a song that he wrote. Next, we will have Kat McKenna, who is a lifelong illustrator using mostly pen and ink and digital mediums. He will show some of his art as well and talk about taking a 5-year break from drawing and how it felt to get back into it. Afterwards, we will have Yvette Flores, who is a dancer, performer, and fitness instructor, who will talk about her love for art in the form of movement. She will offer a body community movement and mindfulness prompt for us afterwards. And last but not least, we have Laura DeRita, who recently moved to Pennsylvania from Australia. She is a board-certified music therapist and singer-songwriter who will be performing an original song that she wrote herself. All right, now without further ado, let's begin. First up, we have Guilherme Duarte. I'm trying my best here. It's a difficult name. He is our digital artist for this session. And I'm going to tell you a little bit of how I met him virtually. I got in touch with Guilherme after I saw his work in a Facebook group called That Weird Art Group. And if you want to look it up, it's on Facebook. Type in That Weird Art Group, you can find it. It's a really cool group with really weird but awesome art, and I spend a lot of time there. In that group, he shared some dark and creepy images that I really liked. And you know, I'm a bubbly person, but I'm a sucker for dark things that sort of balance out the light and dark in me. I think a lot of you would agree. So anyway, I loved his art and I asked him to be on the show and he agreed. And even though he is in Porto, Portugal, where it is the middle of the night right now, he is here today, ready to grace us with his dark, surreal, psychedelic art and his presence. This part of the recording has actually been re-recorded because we lost the original part due to some technological difficulties. But it was just for the very beginning of the presentation, and soon everything will be back to normal. So this is Guilherme Duarte's presentation that he is sharing with us during the show. He offered some information about him here, some images of Porto, Portugal. He briefly talked about what it is like being an artist in Porto, Portugal, and how he began as a musician.
We went to college and we separated. So this is some my early work. Below, it's an exhibition, the first exhibition ever. I was trying to start in illustration, but then I shifted. This big image on the right is from a festival here in Portugal. It's holding some posters I did for that festival. It's a cool image to show where I started. So this is my recent work. I'm a digital artist. This is a cover for a musician here in Portugal. It's called Fred. It's like hip hop and instrumental. This one also for a band from Portugal. They are called Jesus and the Snake. Yeah. For this album, Black Acid Pink Rain. They are stoner rock. This is another one from a friend of mine. It's called Mal Olhado. I made this artwork for him as well. Another one for some friend of mine, Travel. Another artwork I made for their record. So records are done. Now I want to show you my biggest work so far, and I'm creating a tarot deck for a private collection. I don't know how I got in contact with this person. He is in London. He probably saw my work somewhere and contacted me, and I said yes, and I'm currently working on this one and this one are cards for the deck. This one is a different work. I did it for me. It's a bigger piece. It's one of my biggest pieces so far. It's digital art, including the scenery here. It's called I'm a River. This one, it's the same. It's called Soap. I made it.
I love this one too. I love how textured it looks. Yeah, it
Yeah,
is.
I agree.
That's cool.
I love it.
This one, I don't have a name for it. I just have it here. That's another one. This one also, I call it pray. The figure is praying, right? But it only have one eye. Yeah,
I have a quick question for you, Guilherme.
yeah, sure.
The previous one, right before this, if you could flip back, this one is the one that doesn't have a name.
Yeah,
How do you feel about the audience throwing some suggestions into the chat that
yeah,
you're
sure.
welcome to, look through? You don't have to choose any of them, but I think it could be a fun project.
Yeah,
All right, everybody. So throw in your suggestions for this particular painting of what you think it could be named. And then Guilherme will continue showing us other pictures in the meantime.
okay, thanks. So this one is a little bit different, and I've got some problems with people because people are usually complain about this image. I heard people saying they want to throw up, they want to they want to destroy this, and yeah,
I love it.
my my intent with this was to create something. I have in my work I tend to have a sense of humor in my work. So this is one of them. It's a little bit dark, yeah, sure, but I don't know why I found this funny. Yeah,
It doesn't make me think of like a sad, deformed child, which is maybe what
yeah, it's not
somebody
that.
thought.
Yeah,
It
it's
makes
not
me
that.
think of a horror movie and it gives me like goosebumps. I think it's great.
Yeah, thanks. So yeah, this one, and I tried to create the background with more color to pop more the image to make it stronger. This one, uh, it's a little bit more serious, I think. This one I created for a band for a cover, but they chose another one. I made it, so yeah, I saved it because I like it. It's a man with a galaxy in his eye.
Hmm.
This one, when I'm not creating commissions for bands and for people, I create images to yeah to express myself and yeah to sell it eventually to bands or to other artists. And this one is one of them. I call it Desert. I don't have much to say because I think my art, I like to just create. I don't like to think about it. I just create and let it go.
Maybe you want the art to sort of speak for itself.
Yeah, yeah. So this one, I remember when I created this one, I got many comments and people asking me about prints and yeah, I like it. But now I'm changing my style a little bit. So I already see another style I want to pursue,
Hmm.
maybe more like this with more texture and different styles. Yeah, but yeah, it's one of mine. And
Little side note, this is the picture after which I reached out to Guilherme and asked him, hey, can you be on my show? Because this is awesome. The previous one was the one he just talked about when he said texture. It was the woman on the, there we go. It was right before
this
that.
one,
This
yeah,
one. This is the first one I saw. The second one I saw was the I Am a River with the face flowing, and I loved that one too. And then when I saw that third one with the the man with the triangle in the middle, I just this one creeped me out so much that I was just like, I want a print of this just because it's so weird and so eerie. And after seeing this third one, I wrote him and I was like, okay, I really want you on this show. But I love this kind of work. And again, it appeals to maybe the people like me who are typically really, you know, again, like I said, bubbly and upbeat, and we want something dark to balance that out. And maybe also like the goth, the dark, eerie, creepy lovers. They also love that kind of stuff too. But really quick before you proceed, I wanted to read aloud some of the suggestions for that picture that you have without the title. If you could go back to that one really quick. I just loved some of the suggestions we got. And before it gets lost here in all the comments, I wanted to read aloud. We got from Rissa, she suggested Father Jupiter. From Reem, we got anxiety. From Marissa, we got disconnect. From Laura, we got space Jesus.
okay,
Those are
yeah,
amazing. Thanks for participating in the little naming the picture game that we just had really quick.
thanks. And I see it, especially the one, anxiety one. I
Yeah.
don't know the name of the person, sorry.
Oh, that's me. Hello. It really
So,
spoke to me somehow. I just felt anxious when I saw it. So,
yeah,
yeah, translate the anxiety to me, I guess.
Yeah.
yeah, I guess I was a little bit anxious. I'm experiencing that a little bit now, especially with the work and other stuff here in Portugal. But yeah, I see that, and probably was what I was feeling that day. I don't know. Yeah. So this one, it's another one people really like, and I created this I think last year. One of those images I create to vend and to sell eventually. Yeah, for an album cover. Yeah, it's a skull. I think it's called an X-ray. An image of that, and an image of a woman underneath in the space background. I make those stars myself. I have a technique in Photoshop, and I create those stars.
Interesting.
And this image was important because I'm trying to create images with more texture, but at the same time with color. So those two elements are what I'm working on. And this image was the beginning of that, I think. To create things like this, it opened a door for me there.
Mhm.
And yeah, it's I think I have said everything. I don't know if you want me to explain my process or
Yeah, I have a couple of questions for you. And one of the questions is actually something we just got from the audience too. And that's one of the ones I was going to ask you. That question is, how long does it take you to work on each piece? And what is your work method like?
it depends. Sometimes I can create an image in like 1 hour. Other times I have to take like 3 weeks, 2 weeks. It depends. Depends on my mood. It depends on my. I don't create images with I don't think before I create my images. I just create them. I love Dadaism. It's an art movement. I learned that in college, and I understand that style. And they, those artists, created their images like that. They just they just create, and I like that because if I start to think about my what I'm trying to say or what I'm trying to communicate, I get lost and I shift the perspective. So I just try to create and let it go. The images, when I finish my images, they are not mine. They are to everyone who wants to see it. My process. Um, I I go to my computer. I sit there and I start to browse some images. I got some sites I go to explore something I can feel. I start to play to create some textures to create something, and yeah, I just build up on that. And sometimes I finish my images, and the files of Photoshop, they have a limit of like 4 gigabytes. I don't remember the number exactly, and I have to merge all the previous layers I have and create another version and continue. So sometimes in total I have like 10 gigabytes of files.
Mm-hmm. Wow. Awesome. Well, thanks for explaining your process. Thank you so much for filling us in with all that detail too, because I'm sure a lot of people were curious about how this kind of work is made. I think it's really important to actually be able to ask those questions from an artist. Thank you so much for sharing all those. In a second here, we're going to move on to the next person, but I did want to ask Guilherme one more question, which I'll have him type up that response in the chat room to anybody who's interested, because we're going a little bit over the time here. So my question for you was, when I reached out to Guilherme, I saw that he had posted in that weird art group, he had posted about how he's selling originals, and me having no idea about what digital art is sold like, I asked him, how do you sell originals when it is digital art? And basically, like a painter will just paint on a canvas, and the canvas that has a painting on it, that's the original, and then there are prints that he'll sell. So I was wondering, how does a digital artist do something like that? Thank you for being here, Guilherme. Thank you for joining us and showing us your amazing art.
Before we move on, I just wanted to say I really enjoyed the variety in your work. The overall concept is dark in nature, but you use like different color schemes and different textures, and that was really, really interesting to see. And you're getting a lot of good comments in the chat. People are saying that your work is awesome. Someone really liked the textured woman. And then I also wanted to share this comment that I really liked from Amy. She said, art is supposed to, quote, comfort the disturbed and disturb the comfortable. I love that.
Yes.
Yeah.
That comment, thank you for reading that one. I saw that one from Amy, and I thought, so that was actually in response to that image of the girl with no eyes, when you were saying that some people were really weirded out by that one. And then I saw that comment popped up, and that was a really good quote. Thanks for sharing that.
Thanks.
All right. Now we're going to move on to Alex Larson. He has a little song to share with us. By the way, I met Alex in Bend, Oregon at these open mic nights that used to happen 3 times a week, each week. And they were really awesome. They, you know, brought the whole community together, and those who make music were there to play music, and those who don't make music were there to see people perform. And it was a lot of fun. And obviously right now there wasn't something like that. So instead we're doing it virtually. Alex is now not in Bend, Oregon. He's in the Army stationed in New York, but still making music, writing his own songs, and creating a community of like-minded people around him. So now passing it over to you, Alex.
Hey, thanks for having me on. It's awesome to like just see other artists again, because it's really hard to find time outside of work to really do anything. I mean, up at 5, at work till 5. By the way, Guillermo, your work is really cool. I love how it's like on a kind of like an art wall. It was my impression of it. It was kind of like in a gallery.
Yeah,
Yeah, it was cool.
thank you.
We play music. I'm grateful that I can do it and I grew up playing it, because I think that it's what people go do on a Friday night, right? So if I can bring that happiness to somebody, and I also love doing it, so that's cool.
And now we're going to move on to Ket McKenna. So Ket, although he told me to say that he's just a guy who draws, I finally got it out of him exactly what it is he does. He's a lifelong illustrator using mostly pen and ink and digital mediums, although he's not limited to them. You will see a variety of his projects in a neat little presentation that he's made for us with some of his work. Hi, Ket.
Hi.
But let me back up for a second. Before Ket starts showing you all that, I do want to give you a little bit of an intro of how it all began, how I know this person who's going to be showing his amazing art. So it all began with the Pacific Crest Trail, which is a huge trail that goes from Mexico to Canada, which Ket has hiked 2,660 miles of. In fact, he has a tattoo of that number behind his ear. So the year after he hiked, I actually attempted to hike the trail as well. I failed. I got halfway through and got hurt and had to postpone, but we connected because of it. So when I got home from the trail with a messed up tailbone, I actually fell on my butt. Ket needed a job, and my dad actually hired him for some yard work. And I do want to show you some pictures of that, because at my parents' house, where he was staying at the time, is actually where he started drawing again after that 5-year break. This is Ket digging a hole. So he moved in with my family for a month. He dug holes all day. He had an art night with a friend of mine, which is where I realized that Ket's actually really good. I mean, look at that. That's like a really detailed painting, and he did it really quick while we were just over at this friend's house. After that, he was at my family's house at one point. He was eating some Russian food that my parents had made for him, and he drew a picture for Inktober. I'll let him talk about that later, at my parents' kitchen counter. And it was this image right over here. So my parents saw this, and they're just like, wow, this guy's crazy talented. We had no idea that this guy, whose hands were nearly destroyed by shoving a shovel into the hard Southern California ground all day, could actually draw so well. But since then, Ket hasn't stopped drawing. He's been tackling progressively harder projects every year, like drawing his friends as cartoon characters, making digital art, and illustrating books, which you'll see a little bit in a second here. Oh, I had this picture to show you. This is him with his sore hands.
They were stuck that way. So
yeah, he said they were stuck, that he couldn't unbend them. All right, Ket, now over to you.
All right. Yeah, so I mean, that's a pretty good intro. I don't really have much to add on to that, except for, you know, as Elina had said, I took a bit of a break from drawing. I've been an artist my whole life, but when I went to college, I joined the 3D animation program, so my medium changed. And for a while, it was still very creative, but drawing was more of like a kind of a blueprint to what was eventually going to be a final medium. So I didn't really put too much effort into it. And then after getting a couple of jobs that I was pretty unhappy with, I just kind of lost my my love for it. So I had to get that back. So let me show you what that's like. So this is pretty much one of my most recent drawings, and it's a bit of a deviation from what I normally draw, which is kind of character design and comic book art. And I'm trying to get into comic book art and panel design and whatnot. But about a year and a half ago, I just kind of wanted to just try my hand at like maybe tattoo design. I started challenging myself that way, and there's still a lot of notes that I like to hit as far as my artwork goes, and that's like movement, flow, and composition. So I'll have my characters doing a lot of very dynamic things, and I try to translate that towards static designs like this. Like I pointed out, I primarily use ink and pen, and the reason being is it's a very unforgiving medium. It just, once it's on the page, there's no undoing it. So it requires a lot of focus and patience, and I think a lot of creative people can relate to the fact that I don't have a lot of focus or patience. So it really just helps me slow my brain down and then just kind of have a plan moving forward. So then the next image I would show would be the doodle.
What I can do is I can look at your progress photos on your Facebook. I know you have them there.
Now you can share your screen, so I'll just talk about each one.
Okay, cool. And then I'm gonna do the same thing with your owl one too.
Okay, cool. Yeah, you mind backing up a couple frames to the doodle? Yeah, so this is where it starts. I just kind of knew I wanted to draw a snake. I didn't know what exactly the best way to do it was, so I just kind of like imagination vomit onto the page, just kind of loosely with a very, very light pencil. And once I kind of get an idea of what I'm feeling, I'll then expand on that idea. So if you go over to the next one, Elina. So once I kind of get the idea of what I want, especially since this is like a new sort of process for me, like the whole tattoo design thing, and the pen and ink requires a plan moving forward, I just, I draw it a little bit bigger. Another quick sketch takes like 2 to 3 hours. And I just kind of learn how it feels and see what I want to improve on it. And you can see some notes in the top left and the color scheme that I'm kind of toying with on the bottom right. Once I kind of had an idea of what I wanted to change about it and how I was going to move forward, if you go to the next image, for that image in particular, I knew I needed to do scales. And I had done scales before and I've done them terribly. And this was me trying to see if I can do them right. And it wasn't working out, and I was getting very frustrated. But kind of like how Thomas Edison said when he made the light bulb, I found 1,000 ways not to make the light bulb. It kind of clicked. I was focusing too much on the scales themselves and not the actual flow. So if you go to the next image, scales are a pattern, and patterns can be gridded out and they can be measured. So I figured out exactly how the flow would be. And from there, if you go to the next image, that's when I was able to find out where the scales would be. And then the next image, this is where like the real anxiety starts, because pencil can always be erased. And if you ever just like stop caring about it, it never really takes that much time. But once you get to the pen and ink, all of a sudden you realize your hands are a little bit shakier because every line cannot be undone. They have to be that way. So this is where a lot of focus comes into play. And then it leads to the overall finished snake. So then, Elina, if you can go to the Dugan image.
The owl?
Yeah, so I wanted to kind of make a series of these animals and with shapes, and I bought a whole bunch of new inks, and I knew I wanted to do an owl. There's another kind of page of crappy doodles of this owl as well, and then also a full page drawing of the owl, which I have right here. So like I said, I like to find out what's working, what's not working. I just understand the drawing a little bit more, and you can tell there's a little bit of a difference in the foliage. So once I drew this, I realized I didn't quite like these pine needles, so I moved over to the owl, and then again, same part. This is where the line work is, and then I do color next.
Here he's putting in the color, and then I'll get the final image. Here's almost done. And here's the finished one. And it's the last one I'll show on your Facebook, and then we'll go back to your slideshow.
Yeah, sure, we'll try the slideshow out. But yeah, that's the finished image for now. It seems a little flat. The snake was great because I had a very good plan, a lot of reference images that I knew everything I wanted to be ended up being that way. For the owl, though, I stuck a little too hard to my reference image. And originally I wanted this to be very, very cold image with a silver circle, and I wanted the eyes to be the only thing that popped out with like a warm color. And then after drawing the owl, I realized that it was just not going to be that way at all. So I changed up everything to a more like autumn look. I went and bought different inks for the brass circle. It wasn't exactly what I had in mind, but I can always put more color on there. I'm just a little scared too, because I really like it and I don't want to fuck it up.
I don't know what you're talking about. It's amazing. I'm going to go back to that slideshow.
The tippy top of the page.
The
There we are.
setting.
So that was before I met you, and this is the random cartoon friend, and this 6 years ago was the apex of my abilities. And the reason being, like I said, I had to take a break. I walked away from artwork for a while and I lost my love for it. And this was one of the first drawings I did trying to like get back into it. And, you know, it's very static. There's no composition to it. It's just very lazily done, but I was so friggin' thrilled to just have done something. So after that, doing this thing called Random Cartoon Friend, where I just drew my friends for the hell of it, you know, starting to understand the inks a little bit better. My friend Claire, another PCT hiker, told me about this prompt list called Inktober, which is a drawing prompt list that's released every year in October. There's a word listed for each day, and then you just draw something based on that word. So then if you go to what I drew in your kitchen, right there. So that's what I was the first drawing. And that was, the prompt was called Fasts, ladies. And, you know, I drew that on your kitchen table. And right after that, I realized I needed more supplies. And if you go to the next image, that's when I started getting more gray inks because I didn't want it to just be black and white. I started getting a little bit more ambitious because I was more comfortable with the ink. If you go to the next image, you know, I just kind of, and the next one too. That's how I finished the end of my 31 days. And I just feel like that's huge. That guard up there, that previous one, I draw him every year, so just keep an eye out for him. But the next year, you know, after another year of drawing and getting more comfortable, I got the shark. If you don't mind clicking that, please.
How does the prompt part work? Like, what was the prompt for this one?
This one was underwater. So I just thought of, you know, being scared of what's under the water. I used to surf. That's what came to mind. And yeah, and like, you know, you can tell like I'm a little bit more comfortable now with the human body, and I've just kind of got a better understanding of it. The next one is crooked. And this is where I'm starting to understand the medium more. My window's in the way, but maybe you guys can see the spotlight. Like I'm starting to understand just like what I can do with the medium. And the next one, that's also the guard, which taught me, you know, don't bite off more than you can chew. I intended to have a lot of like gray in that, but you know, it's 31 drawings a day. You know, life gets in the way. So the next year, I realized kind of shortly after Inktober, I needed to color things in. So the next year, that's when I got these Arteza pens. Yeah, just started using them. And so we've got a witch, Flavor Flav for clock. You can kind of go through these quickly. This is just an example of me, like, you know, just what I've been learning. The guard's coming up next.
I love this one.
I might redo that one.
Yay.
And then the next year, so this is the first year, so 2018 with this guard, that's the first year I managed to do a drawing every single day. But so the next year is when I got my favorite ink markers, which are called Copics. And if you click on the next one, please. So these are my Copic markers. This is more or less what I'm capable of drawing right now. This was done less than a year ago. I think I've still come a long way from there, but this is more or less where I'm at now. And just trying to get better and better and better. You can keep scrolling through it. This one's weird, but it's called Mindless. So I just draw something.
I love the song and the hairy butt cheeks.
I didn't want anything that makes sense in this drawing. This one I really like because the composition, this is David versus Goliath in case no one knows. But David's twisted in a very, very awful way and that no one would be twisted in. But other than that, though, everything is pointing towards Goliath's head. So I really think I nailed what I was trying to do. I just drew one thing wrong, but it's not that noticeable.
No.
And my guard one more time. I'm going to draw him again this year. I've already kind of figured out some ideas.
Mm-hmm.
And again, these take all, like, if there's anything you want from me in the month of October, you're just not going to get it. I spend the entire day hunched over a sketch pad, just drawing these out and trying to convince myself to just back off and make them more simple, but I just can't seem to stop. But yeah, so those are what I can do on a pen and paper. And then if we have time for digital, I'll talk to you about that. But if you need to move on.
I'll go through them quickly. And before I show the next image, I had 2 questions for you. And that was, I'll have you elaborate a little bit on what Inktober is for those of you who aren't familiar with the 31-day thing.
Oh yeah, it's just, I mean, that's really all it is. It's a prompt list listed by this artist, Jake Parker. He's come into a little bit of heat recently. He might have plagiarized some work, and there's some, I don't know, some shady things that are worth, you know, being aware of, but I'm gonna do it again this year. Every year it really helps me out, helps me think better, and it honestly gets me more followers and more, you know, gets me more noticed, which is, you know, I'm an artist. I want my stuff to be looked at, so.
So next question.
As an illustrator, are there any goals you recently accomplished? I'll have you say that really quick, and then I'll ask you your next question and then show the image.
So yeah, the next image is the Gummy Guidebook. That's one of the accomplishments. It's the first half of a kind of coffee table guidebook. So my buddy Eric, he's a lifelong climber. He knew I can draw and had this like idea of just kind of like, you know, funny little things that new climbers should be aware of as they learn to climb more and more. And this just got published last year. We had a successful Kickstarter. We're gonna have our second volume released hopefully soon. I've got about 24 drawings, according to my chart over there, left.
And these are all the drawings from the book, right?
Yeah, and these are actually a good progress because those first 2 were the first 2 drawings I did for the book, and then as you click through them, I start getting more comfortable with digital. Digital has a lot of really awesome things about it, but it's also extremely frustrating. Like, you know, for instance, right now I don't have a cursor. Just a lot of stuff like that. So it was really hard to get used to. I still don't love it. Drawing's a way for me to escape, and digital keeps me. It doesn't let me escape. It just keeps me very paranoid about what's going wrong. But this is essentially one of the most recent drawings I've done for the book. Then alongside the Gumby Guidebook, professional axe throwing leagues, a lot of people wanted me to draw stickers of them. So, you know, I just kind of did a few caricatures here and there, learned how I wanted to charge people, what I was giving them for what the price is. And, you know, just kind of getting a little bit bolder with what I considered a finished product. That's another thing with digital. It's very easy to do too much. Yeah, you can kind of go through these a little quickly. This is Eric, that's Mercedes. This is a legitimate Viking named Ragnar Olafsson, that's his real name. And then Ladies of the Axe. But then once I started getting a little more comfortable with digital, I started doing caricatures. This is 6 of my favorite comedians. And then coming up is political. I don't want to annoy anybody with it, but I will say, you know, Black Lives Matter. If you want to talk about it, let's do it somewhere else besides here. Just what I want to say about Black Lives Matter. I'll let these speak for themselves. And then that woman at the end, the Hunter Queen, that's my most recent.
You did those?
What was that?
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm sorry. I thought you asked that, Elina. I'm
That
sorry.
was not me. That was somebody from the audience.
Wow, that last one is incredible.
Thank you very much. Yeah, so this was my most recent like major digital project, and if I did this with pen and ink, I would have done it. I could have gotten it done in a couple days, but this took me like months. Like I said, the computer, it seems like it'd be easier, but it's just not. There's just something that's not quite clicking with me, but I'm really, really happy with how this looks.
Yeah.
What program are you using? Is it Photoshop?
Yeah, it's Photoshop. I haven't used anything else, but if you're getting into digital, it seems like Apple's Procreate is the way to go.
Yeah, I heard. I just couldn't afford an iPad, so I'm just using Photoshop instead.
Okay, yeah, that makes sense. Every time Photoshop updates, there's a new bug that just.
I agree. I just kept it at 2018, and that's it. I did not even upgrade it.
Oh.
Just left it there.
Maybe I should do that.
All right, now I'll have our co-host select a few questions or comments to share with you from the comment section.
Yeah, so a lot of people are saying your work looks like they could be tattoos. Marissa asked, has anyone ever commissioned you to create something for them to have tattooed?
Kat has something interesting to share about this that we talked about.
So I do get asked that a lot. I did approach those drawings as as if they were going to be tattoos. But if someone wants a tattoo, I would say go to find an artist to draw that for them. It's just much easier for the artist to draw what comes out of their head. So like if I was a tattoo artist and someone came up to me with something their friend drew and was like, hey, draw this on me, I'd be like, well, have your friend. That's not what I would want to do. I don't want to speak on behalf of tattoo artists, but I think you should trust your artist's ability to come up with a design that you would want and that they can execute the best.
And we also had another question much earlier. What kinds of suggestions would you give to someone who's struggling with a creative block due to depression?
Oh, wow. Oh, man. So I want to say I don't struggle with that at all. So I hope my answer works. And it might not apply the same way, but for instance, right now I'm in Oregon and I have not been able to go outside in a week because I'd be choking on the air. There's so much smoke here. And one of the reasons I'm not totally losing my mind is I've had this owl and a few other projects to work on. So art is really my way of kind of staving that off if it ever does get close to that. But I have been so sad where I couldn't, so I shouldn't say sad, frustrated with just whatever circumstances that I had to not work on my artwork for a while. And, for instance, when I didn't draw because of, my job getting me down, for me, it was just, kind of forcing a square peg into a round hole. I knew I had to draw and I just knew I had to do it to, make myself a little bit happier. So for me, that's what the solution was to just getting a little bit happier and a little bit more satisfied with my brain. But really, it's just a matter of doing. I'll just keep doing, even if it's just your brain is begging you not to. That's for everything,
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
That's good.
Yeah, I agree. And you're having a lot of positive comments in the chat.
So, Kat, you could
read through those compliments and some of the other feedback you're getting, but we are running a little over our time here and I do want to move on to the next person. Thank you so much for sharing all of those images with us, Kat, talking a little bit about your inspiration, talking a little bit about some of your biggest projects that have recently happened, showing us some of those progress photos. I love those. I love seeing something from the really beginning and up until it's completed. Kat's information has been shared by the co-host in the chat room. If you want to take a look at that, if you want to look at more of his art, it's all there. And again, Kat, thanks so much for being here.
Yeah, thank you for inviting me. And I love these comments, guys. Really, I love them. Thank you very much.
Yeah. Okay, we're going to move on to the next person. And we have Yvette here with a prompt for us after her show. Really quick, though, I'm going to give you a little bit of a bio. She is a proudly bi, first-generation Costa Rican Mexican-American who lives in the Los Angeles area and loves to dance and move her body in ways that she finds healing and expressive of who she is. I actually met Yvette in high school. So this was our class of 09 photo. You wouldn't be able to see us here, but I zoomed in for you and I circled our faces. I'm this one. She's this one. And actually, I had to rack my brain a little bit, but I remembered the day we first talked. It was actually outside of school at my first high school party. I was super shy. I had never danced in my whole life. And Yvette tried to teach me. I had never danced before. And so Yvette ended up teaching me how to move my hips to the music and how to just move my body to the music. And obviously, I was terrible. I've never done this before. But then somebody else taught me the moves to Crank That Soldier Boy. I'm that old. And I thought I was pretty amazing for a second until, later I realized that that's not actually dancing. But anyways, Yvette has been a professional dancer dance instructor, fitness instructor, community care advocate, and a lot of other things. I have a few interview questions for her that we'll start with, and afterwards she will offer kind of a sample of what she does. It's going to be a community body movement and mindfulness prompt for us to participate in if we would like to. All right, Yvette.
I'm right here.
There you are. I'll start with the very first question for you, and that's, at what age did you begin dancing?
I began dancing at the age of 4. My mom just wanted me to stop moving around the house. So she's like, go to dance class. And I've never stopped.
And at what point, since you started at age 4, at what point did you know that you were actually going to turn dancing into a career?
Probably in high school when I felt like I was not good at anything else in life. That's what I felt at the time. And then I went to community college near our houses. And then I went to AMDA LA, a conservatory and bachelor's program in LA for dance theater. So, yeah.
Awesome. And my next question for you is, like Kat, you also took a break from your passion. You took a break from dancing after college, you shared with me. Would you like to share with the audience a little bit more about that?
Sure. Hey, Kat, your work is amazing. And to jump off of that as well, going to Kristen's question, I have been severely depressed. That's when I actually did take a break. I moved to Texas. I went on a different journey, and I stopped dancing for 2 years. And then I went a little cuckoo because I took myself off my regimen of dance. And I ended up actually calling and taking myself to a mental hospital, and I stayed there for a week. And I learned a lot about myself, about like, the doctors are like, well, you used to dance your whole life and you just stopped for 2 years, so your body's kind of freaking out. I was like, oh, I need to dance. So about 6 months later, I came back into dancing, and I've been pretty happy since. With depression, though, I'll just say, to answer Kristen's question, and for any artist, it doesn't feel comfortable. Sometimes I think we really need a break from our art. Feeling guilty is going to be part of it, but I think sometimes we just need to sit and just listen to what our mind and body are saying, and even make ugly ass work, whatever that is in our own place, like whatever work we do, just get the uglies out, and then we'll turn back into that beautiful butterfly after a caterpillar moment. So that's, yeah.
I love that. So I called you a dancer earlier because you also have been, professional dancer and dance instructor, but this particular prompt that you'll be sharing with us, it's not, you said it's not exactly dance. So I want to kind of discuss that. At your new job, you found a new way of moving your body besides dancing. So what is it that you do now?
As artists, I think we all know we all do lots of things. Right now during COVID, I actually started I'm starting my own business. My name is Yvette Flores, but I also go by Evie, and that's just a whole nother realm. But right now I'm just going by Flores, Yvette, Evie. And I'm learning about, I actually have this program right now, online series called Loving Your Body. And if anybody's interested, send me an email or a message or DM. I'd love to get you on this program. Long story short, being a dancer and then going through different dance realms and now fitness, I'm realizing that we just need to move. So like, even if we're on this Zoom chat, what we're going to do right now, this community care, is all about loving our bodies in our own capacities. So we don't all have to be dancers. And Elina was not a bad dancer. Her hips are very nice. Thank you very much. And everybody can dance. I truly believe that. Are we all going to be professional dancers? Maybe. I think so. I really could train everybody too. But but what does it feel like for everybody to move in their own ways and feel good in their body? So yeah, right now my new job is morphing from being at dance studio and morphing into being my own boss, so that I can create some sort of system that will create community care in whatever capacity that means for every single individual.
Mm-hmm. All right, so we're going to go into the movement prompt for a second here, and then I have another question for Yvette afterwards.
So this movement prompt that we're going to be taking a look at is a community space of self-care and embodiment, slowing down and listening to our bodies. So we're going to take a look at what that means. We're going to do some stretching through our bodies right now, range of motion, and adding a little bit of humming. And I'm really excited that, is it Laura who's next? Maybe as Laura gives us music therapy, we can work on this new prompt as well. So yeah, I'm excited to move with you if you'd like. You can join in at whatever capacity you'd like as an audience member, or you can just watch, or you can navigate your own body wherever you are. So it's not going to be like dancery, yeah, because people think it's dance. And I really want to, and then fitness. What is fitness? So right now we're going to just be humans on Zoom exploring our bodies.
Yeah. All right, let's begin.
Okay, awesome. So I'm going to just hum at certain points, but I'm also going to navigate everybody through their space. So I'm going to scoot my chair back so you can just see a little bit more of me. But first, I just want you to just sit in your body with me. So everyone just sit. And however you want, whatever comfortable is for you right now. And I just want you to feel your body on the chair or the couch. You can look at me or you can close your eyes if you're participating. I think it's exciting if you don't want to participate though, and just watch how it looks from the outside. And if you'd like to just do a small hum in your space. The next thing I'm going to have you do in your comfortable body is we're going to go through range of motion. So I'm just going to have you shake your head no at the farthest ranges. And here I'm just going to have you go nice and slow. The movement is gliding or gushy. And this is movement you can do during commercial breaks or on Zoom calls if you have your screen black. And just taking your chin and your eyes as far as you can go. Good. You're going to come neutral for me. And then when you're ready, you're going to take your head down and up. As comfortable as you can. Take your eyes up as down towards your belly button or up towards your ceiling. You can let your head slide on the couch or wherever you are. And you're just getting this nice range of motion as far as you can. Come neutral for me, and then we're going to just tilt our ears to our shoulder without moving your shoulders. So you're just going to it looks like a TikTok. Good. And nice and slow. Yeah, good. And then if you can sit up away from your chair a little bit or wherever your space is, if you don't have space and you want to do this, I'm just going to drop my chin down and we're going to do what's called a head roll. And you're just going to allow your head to move in its socket. The skull is moving around at the very top. And the main thing is to move really slow, everyone, super slow. If you're thinking you're moving slow, move even slower. Because right now it's a massage for your neck and your head. Let's reverse it to the other direction. And here you're going to figure out if you have any kinks in your neck, if you're holding any stress in your shoulders. This is just small range of motion movements that just start to feel good. And come up for me. Good, neutral. When you're ready, we're going to take our shoulders slowly up to our ears and slowly down. Good. So you'll take your shoulders up, up, up to yours. Let's hold it there for a moment and then slowly take it down. A lot of people like to just go up slowly and down quick, but go slow down through your back. Good. Again. And don't forget to breathe. Anytime you do this, you can also hum if your mic's not on. And you're just connecting it to your body nice and slow. These are excellent exercises. We're going to take now, I'm going to turn sideways for you so you can see a little. You're just going to roll your shoulders in their shoulder socket. And you're just going to roll around. I'm going forward, up, back. I might be a little bit far away, so I'll get a little closer. But I'm just rolling my shoulders, and I'm rolling bold shoulders right now. And go even slower. So slower than you think. And I just want you to feel what it feels like to be in your shoulder socket. Wonderful. And let's reverse it the other way. So we're going to go forward with the shoulders. Good, everybody. Small, slow. You don't have to go so big. I might be going big. You can go even smaller if you'd like. And again, I'm just learning as a fitness instructor and dancer how to get us moving on Zoom, even when it doesn't feel like we want to move, when we want to sit still. And again, you don't want to just do this all the time, but sometimes feels good. So take your arms out in front of you. And we're just going to do, with no weights, obviously, just some bicep curls. But you're just gonna bend, so your palms are gonna be facing the ceiling, and you're just gonna bend them to your shoulders and back. And here we're just getting the full range of motion. Go nice and slow. Yeah, nice, everyone. We're just going nice and slow. These are great tools to use to get that full extension and flexion of the elbow. Sometimes that we really, really need throughout the day if we're typing a lot or we're texting or on the keyboard. Good, relax for me. Then you're just gonna flex your wrists. What are these called, Yvette? Wrists. And you're just gonna give a nice massage to your wrists. Good. Nice and slow, everyone. Again, just going through some slow range of motion. That this is perfect for every day, especially sitting on our booties if we do on Zoom. And then here I'm gonna have you make circles with your wrists. You can go in any direction. I'm going in right now. And let's reverse that and go outward. So what does that feel like to go outward? I just want you guys all to know you are officially flamenco dancers now. You're welcome. Keep going. And now we're just going to take our hands and we're going to splay them out. Splay your fingertips out and then slowly roll them in and just create fist. Hold in fist. Good. And then splay your fingertips out, getting some stretches of your fingers. Good. And then bring them into fist. Beautiful. Hold them, squeeze them. Good. And relax your fingers. Take one hand and wave at me. And then take your other hand and just flex that wrist back. Yeah, just a little flex. Now here's what I want you to be aware of. Is I want you to be aware as your shoulder out. I want it to stay back and in. So make sure your shoulders are staying back. Good. When you're stretching, you just want to have some nice form. Here, what I'm going to have you slowly do is just grab one finger at a time. So one finger, hold that finger back. Good. If you want to grab it from the middle of the finger, you'll get that whole stretch. Good. Switch fingers. Good. Go down the line, switch fingers. Good. Switch to the last, and then go to that thumb. Good. Other side. Wave hi to me. Give me a hand and flex it. Good. I'm going to use the whole hand first, so grab as many fingers as possible. Make sure your shoulder's back. Yeah, so careful of leaning forward, just shoulder back a little bit. And then one finger at a time, grab a finger. Grab a finger. Switch to the next finger. You're just giving your hand some love right now. Your hand is going to really thank you. And other thumb. Beautiful, everyone. Good. And last thing we're going to do, we'll go to the feet really quick. You're just going to give me your foot, and you're just going to make circles with your foot. If you don't have to give it all the way to me, you don't have to lift it all the way up. Elina will. And then circle it the other way. You just want to get some range of motion into your feet, yeah? If you have to hold your leg with your hands, that's totally fine too. And wiggle your toes, yeah, like they're waving hi to me. Sometimes our toes just want to be loved and our feet want to be loved even more. Good. Drop that foot down, grab the other leg and roll those ankles out. Just get some blood flowing, extra blood flow. Good, nice and slow. What does it feel like to be in your ankle? My left ankle is way more tight than my right ankle. Switch directions for me. These are small range of motions. I used to work in hospitals too. And wave hi to me with your toes. Yeah, wiggle those toes, wiggle your feet. And then lastly, bring up your knee and give your knee a hug. And then switch it. Perfect. Everyone keep bringing in a knee and just hug yourself and bring it out. And slowly switch. You can hug for as long as you want. Make it feel good and bring it down. And then lastly, we're going to work on your hips. This is going to be the funkiest part, everybody. I think of John Travolta from Saturday Night Fever. But what I think about is if I'm sitting on my bottom, I have these two little butt bones. And so just rock on those butt bones. Yeah, those are your sit bones. They sit at the bottom of your pelvis. And you're just finding them, yeah? And you're just aware of where they're at. When you want to have really nice posture when you're sitting, you want to find those butt bones. Now from here, wherever you're sitting, put your hands down. And if you have bad wrists, you can put fists down. But you're just going to grab and you're just going to push your pelvis a little forward. Just a little bit off of a chair. Good. And then have a seat. Yep. Oh, good. Yeah, do it again one more time. Push, push, push. And bring it back down. Good. Last time. Push, push, push.
So I'm seeing a comment here that is something that's been happening to me, so I can't help but say it. Somebody said, Amy said, the amount of cracking noises that came from my body were unearthly. That's exactly me. My fingers are cracking, my hips are cracking.
That's good. Good. Okay. Well, we're done for right now. That felt good. Yeah.
Yeah. So in the comments, I'm going to have Agnessa share a little bit of those in a second, but I do have one question for you that you mentioned earlier when you were sharing the movement prompt, and I'll have you answer that question for us really quick. By the way, thank you for having us move like that, because we've all just been sitting here for an hour and 42 minutes or longer, and we really needed that. But my question is, you call yourself a word I've never heard before, and that was the word artivist, that you said is a combination of artist and activist. Can you explain that for us and what that means?
Yeah. So it's a word that I'm newer to in the last 2-3 years, and I didn't feel like I was one till more recently, with more of the civil and justice movement moving. But artist and activist. So merging those words together as artists, I would even say, I don't want to just say this, but like I think Ket, you're an artivist with what you were posting. If he's still here, I see you, Ket. But and we don't have to be that if we don't want to be, but I think it was a cool merger that happened in the art world where artists and activists were like, you know what, they created this word artivist. I first heard it from a dance company who does a lot of different artwork that has to do with political background. They're called Contratiempo, and they're down here as well, in LA. And then my group that I'm a part of, Good Troublemakers, they're highlighted on my social media as well. It's a dance collaboration of queer art making and anti-racist work. And so we are definitely artivists in the sense that we're artists who are making work about activism and then fighting in our whole hearts for what we believe is right and right for humanity. So, yeah.
Awesome. Okay, let's have Agnessa read a couple of her favorite comments or maybe questions from the comment section.
Yeah, so people are saying it was really nice to loosen up a little bit after all the sitting, and I completely agree. I feel like my body just feels a lot more alive all of a sudden, like I feel more energized.
Good. There's lubrication moving around, the blood's flowing a little bit more, which is awesome. What I'll tell everyone is if you can take that with you, even in little spouts throughout your day, like, oh yeah, I can start to move my joints in different circles, or depending on if it's a hinge joint, go slow and only go what feels comfortable and good. If you feel severe pain or popping or clicking, keep it smaller. That's just from a professional standpoint.
Cool. I think you actually just answered a question that popped up in the comments section. It was, what can you do to prevent overstretching? And it's probably what you just said about going slow, right?
Right. Going slow, listening to your body, remembering that in the mornings when you're first waking up, your body is not as agile, you're not moving as much, so you're tighter. So by the end of your day, you should feel a lot looser, but overstretching, just be careful by pulling. If you feel like you're yanking yourself, you're overstretching. You want to make sure you're breathing and feeling comfortable with a slight uncomfortableness, but not enough to be like, oh, this is unbearable.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Ket says, by the way, thank you for the artivist badge. Thanks for sharing that. It was very useful to everybody. Again, we all really needed that. Our co-host shared the social media and such for Yvette Flores, and I'm definitely mispronouncing that because I'm not doing like the Spanish. I can't roll my R's. Sorry.
No, you're good. Thank you though for having me, Elina. It's wonderful, and thank you to all the other artists. I can't wait for music therapy right now.
Yeah, and that's what we're moving on to next. Thanks again, Yvette. Now we're on to Laura, and Laura DeRita is a board-certified music therapist and singer-songwriter. She has been a music therapist for over 5 years. Recently, Laura has taken a little hiatus from her career to go traveling, but she recently moved back to Pennsylvania from Australia. She experienced some really bad timing. She actually came back from Australia a couple of days before COVID shut everything down. But once all of the craziness of COVID dies down, she's eager to begin pursuing her career once again. And being on this workshop is a step in that direction. So, Laura, let's do the same thing we did with Yvette. Let's jump right into the interview first before you share your song. Well, let's start with the first question. And since I mentioned traveling, and we'll talk about music therapy in a second, and what that is and what that looks like and what Laura does, but I know that traveling is one of your main passions too. So you just spent a year in Australia, right? Tell us about.
Yes, I thought it'd be worth mentioning because most artists and creatives I know also typically like to travel. So I thought it'd be worth mentioning. I just did like a year-long working holiday visa in Australia. So it's a visa program that Australia offers, and it allows you to work while you travel. So I did that for a full year, and I split it pretty 50-50 working and traveling and just doing all sorts of odd jobs, working on farms, bartending, stuff like that. And that allowed me, the money I made in Australia allowed me to travel Asia for 6 months. So I was in Australia till November 2019, and then was in Southeast Asia from November till March of this year. So it's been a big transition coming back, but the thing I was most looking forward to was getting back into music therapy. I also took a hiatus. That seems to be a theme among some of us. Obviously, but while I was traveling, I wasn't pursuing music therapy work. I was just focusing on seeing as much stuff as I could. So just sort of transitioning back into work, and also what that means currently with the pandemic, as it were. So yeah.
And now the question everybody's probably wondering about, what is music therapy? Can you explain that, please?
Yeah, so music therapy is basically the study of how music affects the brain and body, and using that knowledge and information to implement like in music-based activities to help reach non-musical goals. So music therapy can work with a variety of people. My specialty is in Alzheimer's, dementia, hospice, sort of end-of-life care, but you can work with people with autism in schools, prisons, psych wards, recovery units. It's sort of any place where music is available and someone enjoys it, then you can sort of use music as the medium and as this universal language that we like all understand and can relate to, using that for different goals in the treatment plan. So you can sort of get as creative as you and your client are able to.
Okay, so I think you answered the next question, and that was, who do you provide music therapy for?
Oh yeah.
Which is great. Unless you wanted to elaborate on that
I've done clinical training for my degree. I have a degree in music therapy, and to practice you need to have a degree in it, and then also do the certification test. So as part of my degree training, I've worked with everyone, but I mostly as a professional have worked in hospice and dementia, and it's actually Yvette was her movement activities. That's some of the stuff I would do with some of my senior patients in nursing homes, just like playing music and sort of doing a guided body movement with it. Like I mentioned, movement and music go hand in hand. So that was really cool to see, but that's sort of my specialty. And that's sort of something for the population I work with, people with dementia, people on hospice, they're at the end of their life. It's definitely more of a quality of life thing and just getting them to engage in whatever it can. So it might be movement and music. It might be sort of a game that's based around music, because especially for people with dementia, the way music affects your memory, it's sort of one of the last things that dementia, as it overtakes your brain, it's sort of one of the last things that's in there as far as memories go. And music and memory are so closely linked. I've had patients that didn't know who they were, didn't know where I was, and play them a song that's from their teen years or their 20s, and they are right back there telling you how they know that song, who sang it. Oh, I danced to that at my prom. It's really amazing, and just sort of trying to capture those moments with these patients through music, and just use music as the tether to sort of pull them back as much as possible, or just make a nice experience. So.
And actually what you just mentioned, playing a song that they recognize, that's that goes into my next question. And that question is, what type of music do you usually use in music therapy sessions?
Yeah, so it's can be super broad. Me specifically, I will play whatever my patients prefer, especially in hospice. It's like end of life care. It's just providing comfort. So if someone wants, you know, something crazy, I'm going to try my best. Sometimes I do play recorded music, but the goal is to have live music. So I sing, I play guitar, and a few other, like ukulele. But the goal is to get the person engaged as much as possible. So you know, I'll play a song that they know on guitar and sort of leave room in the song for them to sing along with me, or give them an instrument to engage in them with that. So it's really up to me and my clients. Mostly the people I serve are in their 80s and 90s, so I'm doing a lot of Frank Sinatra, but I have a friend who works with at-risk youth, and they make hip-hop beats all day and write raps. And so it's really as diverse as you are able to be with the people you're working with.
That's awesome. So you mentioned, or I mentioned when I was introducing you, that you're a board certified music therapist, and you also mentioned your career, you know, that you're licensed. So just in case anybody in the audience is wondering what exactly that means, my question is, what does it mean to be a board certified music therapist?
So it's basically just any person in the medical field, like you need a license or a certification or something to practice. So it's not just like, sometimes I tell people what I do and they think I'm just like playing Enya CDs to people, and I'm like, no, you know, I studied this. But yeah, so the process is you need a degree, whether a bachelor's or a master's. You need 1,000 internship hours, and then you take a certification test, and then every 5 years you have to take continuing education credits to keep your certification. So it's just sort of a way to keep the professional accountable, and to also build you know, our efficacy and our accountability in the profession really is based on a lot of science. You know, I had to read the Harvard Medical Journal for most of my classes in school, and I technically have a minor in psych, so it's like you definitely do learn about the body and the brain and just how music affects both. And it really is, music itself is a bihemispherical process. It engages both sides of the brain simultaneously, and that's a pretty rare activity. That, like, it's pretty rare that an activity does that, but especially one as accessible as music.
So last question for you before we play your song, and that's just, again, another curiosity question, and it's, how did you get into that? How did you get into being a music therapist?
Awesome. Thank you for that question. I went to Berklee College of Music. The only thing I really liked to do growing up was sing. So when it came time to go to college, I was like, well, I'll just go to music school. And I got there and I thought that I was going to be a professional musician. And then I met people that actually wanted to be professional musicians and practiced 10 hours a day and had no social life. So I was like, oh my God, no. And I ended up taking an intro class, and I just fell in love with it. And it sort of combined my interests of music, of psychology, and of just general, you know, being in service to others, which is something I knew I definitely wanted to do. I just got my degree and just like took the intro class and sort of never looked back. So
awesome. Well, thanks for sharing that, for answering all those questions. And now everybody will get to see your video and hear you sing with your beautiful voice.
Yes, this is a song I wrote. It's not something I would typically use in a session, but I didn't want to just play a cover. So, oh my God.
Don't be shy.
I'll play, but okay.
Guys, you're in for a treat. I watched this obviously ahead of time before this workshop, because I wanted, I was just testing all of her files, and I had actually never heard Laura sing. I heard that she sings, but I've never heard her sing. But I was pleasantly surprised. And again, you're in for a treat. And without further ado, let me just play this little video of Laura playing the guitar and singing for you.
I stopped waiting for you, 'cause I knew you weren't coming. just forget months before to hear you knocking on my door. Time to kill. I'll get these memories out my head. The scent of you in my bed, it lingers still. So I stopped pouring myself to a glass with no bottom. I'll give your things to your friends. Just let me know that you got 'em. I wasn't made for you. I wasn't made for you. And that's alright. So I'll do these motions once again. Strong drinks with old friends to let you go. 'Cause I've been down this road before. It doesn't hurt anymore, just so you know. So I stopped waiting for you, 'cause I know that you can't follow. Who wants to love someone else when it just leaves you hollow? I wasn't made for you. Oh no, not you. And that's alright. Thank you.
Thank you guys. Thanks. These comments are really nice. Thank you.
Yeah. Seriously, guys, wasn't that good? Laura was getting all shy there right before I played it. I was shocked when I listened to it. I was just like, and you don't even really do this that often anymore. So not one of the questions I prepped you with, but how often do you sing now?
Right now, I'm trying to sing a lot, but I mean, I'm not performing anywhere right now, so it's mostly just private practice, and I'm trying to relearn all of the songs. I have a binder about this thick of all my music therapy songs, so I'm just trying to work my way through that one. But I'm so sorry, I forget who mentioned it before, just like, being depressed, and this year just seems like a bombardment of bullshit. So I've definitely been having some slumps in being creative, and just in even wanting to play or wanting to do anything. So it's actually nice to have an opportunity to play and be in a creative workshop like this that encourages something like that. So thank you for the opportunity.
No, that was awesome. And you're getting people telling you that you made them cry with that song. It was super touching. And I was going to ask you a question about that song before we finish up here. And after I listened to it, I was just like, oh, that song touched me. And I wanted to ask you what inspired you to write this particular song.
Oh, it's definitely a breakup song. Just a dude that I used to know.
And most of the songs you use for music therapy, you said those are mostly covers, and now
if I'm working with someone who is cognitive enough and like there to do songwriting, and if that's something they're interested in, that I'm 100% into it. And we might like Weird Al Yankovic style it, where we take a song we already know and replace some lyrics, or just start from just chords up, which is typically how I write a song. But yeah, what I mostly do, the population I mostly work with, I'm just, playing music. Occasionally I'll do improvised music with them, but that again is also more just for relaxation, quality of life. Sometimes I collaborate and do music with the massage therapist on staff, or I worked with a chaplain who did Reiki, and I would do music for that. So that's sort of the more creative aspects of music therapy. But I don't typically play my own songs. They're just for me.
Yeah. Well, again, thanks so much for sharing one of your own songs that you wrote. I mean, you're being extra vulnerable, I feel like, with sharing something you wrote, and that's special. Thank you for doing that.
Yeah, no
Thank you
problem.
for being here. Thank you for answering all those tons of questions I had for you and sharing with us what music
Nice.
therapy is.
Alina,
Yes.
I just wanted to ask or jump on really quick and just share something with Laura. Like, Laura, I'm not a music therapist, but as being a dancer, it was really nice how we connected, because I just wanted to share that when I used to work in hospitals, I didn't know how to connect to my patients. And when they were older or had Alzheimer's or sundowner syndrome, I would play music. I'd be like, what's your favorite song? And they'd be like, oh, I used to love, and then they would share the music. And so hearing you say that, I was like, I got chills, because that's something that has happened to me a lot in my life, is like seeing how the music connects to the patients who are not like cognitively there. And it's an amazing experience. So I think it's cool that that's what you do for a living. So that's awesome.
Thank you for sharing that. Yeah, and that is honestly, like, that's music therapy too. Obviously, you don't need a degree and, you know, a certification to know that music is therapeutic. And I've even had friends that their grandparents or their parents are suffering from dementia, and I'll talk to them about it, and I'm like, just sit down and ask them what their favorite music is and sit there and listen to it with them. And that's a huge way to connect. And, you know, you don't need all this fancy stuff to know that music is therapeutic. But yeah, so that's awesome that you had that experience. Thanks for sharing.
And beautiful voice, beautiful.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
Yeah. Thank you for sharing that, how much music means to people, that even, you know, when they're forgetting everything else and kind of disconnected from life and everyone else, music is still the one thing that their heart remembers and brings back, you know, this moment where they're all of a sudden alert and they're there enjoying it again.
Yeah.
It's beautiful. All right. Well, thanks again, Laura. And Laura was the conclusion of this show. Our co-host Agnessa will share Laura's information in the comments section for you all. But wait, before you go, just in case you forgot, surprise! Alex was the second person on the show, but because of technological difficulties, while editing the video, I moved him to the end of the show. So one more featured guest for you. But I do have a backup. Let me just pull that up for you.
So this song was actually over the quarantine, because I had some free time, and so I was learning how to record. So this is like 2 days of work.
Mm-hmm. Okay, cool. So we're gonna get to hear a little bit of this song, and hopefully this sounds a little better for everyone.
Look in the mirror, how about you once again?
a song by Alex.
It actually sounded better over Zoom than it does on SoundCloud, which was kind of cool. But so the part where it's like, what happens when it goes? Stocks crashing and stores close. Where will your head be, spinning around or focusing? To me, it was kind of like, what would happen if the hippies of the 60s, right, got it together and got a job? And that's kind of like a crass way of saying it, but I think that progressively minded artistic people have a responsibility to change the world in a positive way. And it's like, whether it's street art or graffiti or pictures or art, whatever it is, dance, that's what makes the world go around. And quarantine and COVID is no fun.
I did want to let everybody know Alex is going to be back in October 15th. He will play a few other songs, share some of his beautiful lyrics. There's a lyric he's going to kind of analyze and slow down and read aloud to and talk about it. And it's a really beautiful lyric that relates to a topic that he's going to talk about. He's going to talk about the importance of connection between humans. And again, very relevant with COVID going on. But yes, that's what's coming up in October 15th. A little bit more from Alex, and we'll have a pre-recorded video and everything, so the same situation won't happen. But thank you, Alex, for playing that song, for letting us play that song, since you couldn't play your own song. Sorry about that. Now that concludes our show. I just wanted to tell everybody that, first of all, thank you so much for being here. It was an honor having all of you attend, whether you were a featured guest or whether you were here to just be an audience member and cheer somebody on. You're welcome to come back with either your own art or music or etc. in a future show if you enjoyed yourself during this show, or you're also welcome to pass along the information about this show and possibly reach out to somebody who might be interested in being featured. Or, of course, it would be lovely to have you back as an audience member again. This workshop happens twice a month, every single month, on the 15th and 30th, except if it happens to fall right around the holidays. And that's it. Good night.
Thank you so much,
Bye.
Elina, for putting this together. This is great.
Lovely having you all.
Good night. Thank you.
Bye.
Thank you all.
Thanks, everybody. Appreciate it so much.
Bye. Thank you. Thank you.
Good night. This was
You guys are awesome.
Bye.
Keep trading.
Night. Thanks, Elina.
Later.
Bye, everyone.